labs are not reading 100% of the trace at 600x.
A hard find, but there was 2 windows that were leaking and another window that was leaking in the office.
I will be, 70 years old at the microscope, still trying to read samples. AI will take a big portion of this eventually. Yes.
That's huge.
Good question. That's a hot topic.
How do you feel about mold canines? Costs a lot of money.
Why didn't you take a direct sample?
I think women could be a lot better inspectors than men.
Here at Sporelytics, we always read 100% of the trace at 600x.
Hi, my name is Brett Brunsvold with GreenFox Air Quality, and we're here today to talk with Brittany Gordon about microscopy, mold, and her new business venture, Sporelytics. Brittany's been a respected name in the environmental microbiology realm for about a decade now. We're going to dive into her journey, her experience, and a little bit about what Sporelytics does and what they're offering for the professionals in South Florida and beyond, in Florida and the rest of the country. So a little bit about Brittany before she introduces herself. Brittany Gordon is the co-founder of Sporelytics, an environmental microbiological analysis laboratory launched alongside Joshua Krinsky. Prior to founding Sporelytics, Brittany served as lab director and chief mycologist at AEML Laboratories. She brings years of hands-on experience in spore identification and environmental microscopy. And Brittany can go ahead and give us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for that introduction. It was wonderful. I'm really excited to be working with GreenFox on this and happy to be in the lab field again. Josh and I have such a passion for this, and we're excited to be working closely with the guys, the assessors that really are looking for a home base to collaborate and to expand your side of things as well. So I got my start, actually. I was in college. I graduated my degree in biology. And after that, I said, where am I going to go? I don't know if I want to go to a medical school route. Maybe I'll go into the job market. And I actually landed at AEML in the lab. And
how long ago was that? What year was that?
That was
started AEML.
About 2014.
Okay.
So I found this wonderful job and I said, okay, let's see where this goes. And luckily, a lot of the in-house learning, they teach you from within and how to do the microscopy stuff and how to analyze samples and look at spores and how spores grow and their morphology and all of these little things we piece together to actually analyze the samples. So we get training for about 2 years. You have to really work at it. And after that, I said, this is my career. I absolutely love this space. I have a passion for mold. And then alongside of that, I love working with the clients and helping you guys on any mold related questions you have or how we can help you on the lab side. That's really been our passion ever since. And I think, having that connection with GreenFox and our other clients, they've really helped their business grow as well. We're happy to be in this space again.
And before you worked at AEML, did you have any interest in mold or fungi, spores? Was your first introduction to mold and fungi, at AEML with Ron, with Josh?
So yeah. As going through all of the biology classes, the organic chemistry classes, all of that, rigorous classes, I did always find myself really liking the microbiology classes. Never thought I would ever work in a mold lab. Frankly, didn't even realize how big the mold space was.
So when you were in college, none of your professors, there was no idea of environmental microbiology or you go to any job fairs and
say anything on mold lab, maybe that's your future. No, you as a young person coming out of college, you're like, oh, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, where are you going to go? And once I was here and realized how big the mold world was, South Florida is obviously it's
like one of the mold capitals.
Big hub of mold, right?
Yeah, we're in the heartland.
Humidity, all of the wonderful things that breed mold, really just was excited to be here and realized, okay, this is my career path and I want to be in this forever.
Very cool.
Yes, I will be, 70 years old at the microscope, still trying to read samples.
Maybe we can stick it in the video, but I'm curious about how big the environmental microbiology industry actually is, how many millions of dollars, annually gross in the U.S. it produces, because it's huge down here in South Florida. That's why we're covering this. That's why we're here with Brittany. We do mold remediation, we do air quality work, we do duct cleanings, air duct aseptic type work. And when we submit samples, either before we do work, when a protocol is being developed by another assessor or by us in-house, and then after doing the work when we're needing to get clearance. So that might be a swab on the inner lining of duct surface, or a vent or a coil on an HVAC system. We send it to a third-party lab like Brittany and Josh here at Sporelytics. And Brad, my partner, he's known Brittany and Josh for probably about 10 years now. And my father went to AEML before me, and then I was introduced to Brittany and Josh and the wonderful mycologists here. So that's kind of how Brittany and I are sitting here now too as well.
Yeah.
So before we get sidetracked in AI and the industry and everything, tell me a little bit about Sporelytics and why you guys started this and how now you ended up running your own business, because you and Josh are independent now. You're doing your own thing.
Yes, we're excited to team up. I think our knowledge base here at Sporelytics is top notch. Even not just within Josh and myself, our team has, 12 plus years of experience doing microscopy work. And with that, you can really develop a really strong core base to give you accurate and reliable results, right? Because that's what you guys need at the end of the day, a lab that you can trust to send your samples in and they give you, reliable results always. For us, we do same day results, which helps on your end to kind of give clients your results fast. On your side,
is amazing.
Yes.
That's huge.
We try. If you need something quicker, just let us know and we're happy to do that for you. We're trying to put an emphasis on our computer software is really important. That kind of helps move things along and get the samples and analysis done quickly so you guys can get the results and give that to your clients as well. All of that stuff, and having the IAQ products in-house also, it's like the one-stop shop for mold. Whatever you need, we're here to do for you. If you have questions, please, always feel free to ask us. I know we've had lots of mold chats over the years, which I've really enjoyed, and we all learn from each other, right? You have those conversations and we can kind of build on that and make a better industry all around.
Certainly. And to touch on the accuracy part, or, for us building forensic guys, if we're out doing an inspection and we see mold growth along a duct system and we know there has been water damage there, and then we submit a sample, but the sample doesn't seem like it correlates with our findings in the field. It's one thing if it happens once in a while, but I have noticed at other labs, so as my partner Brad, some labs, don't seem like the actual analysis lines up near as much as what we find in the field. And so a really good, microscopist or mycologist is so important in our field. We're completely reliant on them here at the lab. We could go and do an inspection, but without actual air samples, analysis, and service samples, we don't have any empirical data.
And you know why that is? Most of the time, labs are not reading 100% of the trace at 600x. Why they don't do that? It's because
so they're reading a small part of it, you're saying, basically, and then just extrapolating out. So if that one small sample on the glass slide has, let's say, clad but not stacky or whatever, it's going to skew the results. Interesting. But it's quicker to do it the other way, right?
Correct.
So you can
that's why
pop more out.
It's efficiency, right? So you can just kind of keep going, keep reading more samples. You need less people, all of that. But here at Sporelytics, we always read 100% of the trace at 600x, and that is the most complete read on the market. A lot of the bigger labs don't do that, obviously for speed reasons, but we do think that is very important. And with that will come a better, factual, what type of spore is there. There's little things that we pick out as microscopists to correctly identify those spores, and reading 100% of the trace at 600x will give you that precision.
Very interesting. Brad and I had many talks about that, because when we switched to a certain lab, we had started noticing that the analysis was definitely different from what we were seeing, and we couldn't figure out why, because that makes total sense. So I guess kind of give me a deep dive into your world, or a sample gets received here. How does that process look like to analyze it? What do you do?
Sure. So samples come in, we do receive them, and we obviously look over making sure that they're in good quality, making sure that the, all the media isn't expired, all of that is logged into our LIMS system, which we've spent time developing, trying to make it as best as possible. Then after that, it is sent to the the person going to analyze the sample, the microscopist. They prep the samples. The air samples actually have a little glass slide inside with the glue that holds the spores together. And that's what we take out and actually analyze under the microscope.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then you go through and count the spores and the hyphal fragments and then report in the lymph system.
Any spores that are present there, we'll go ahead and, note that on the report. Quantifying exactly how much mold is there is really important too, especially on the swab side. We're actually giving you full counts as compared to some labs that just do present or absent. You guys want to know exactly how much mold is there, and that'll give you an accurate indication of what's going on, let's say on that baseboard or that wet wall, so on and so forth. As far as analyzing the sample, it really depends on what's going inside the sample. Some of them are what you do is clearance sampling. That could be a little faster. On the other side, if you have hundreds of thousands of Aspergillus or Stachybotrys in a sample, it takes some time to analyze those.
Yeah, that's a lot more to count.
It really depends, yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
So kind of roughly correlates more spores or fragments there. It's going to take longer.
Correct.
You have more debris to look through on the side too as well.
And going back to that, reading 100% of the trace as 600X, it does take time to piece through that, and you're looking through all of that, maybe background debris that's present, all of that stuff. So there is some factors that do depend on how quickly we can get through a sample, but we don't want to rush anything, because obviously we're not here to miss anything at all. We will give you the most accurate read on the market.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for answering all that.
Yes.
In terms of the actual industry itself, there's been big changes over the past decade, I'd imagine, with technology, inputting, lymph systems, stuff like that.
Yep.
Where do you see the industry heading, and what does the future of mold testing look like?
Sure. I mean, I would say that the market itself has gone into a lot of the health-related aspects of mold. I think that homeowners are doing their research as far as mold itself, what types of molds are out there, the mycotoxin producing molds, all of that stuff is, I think, more knowledge-based now than it ever had been before. The homeowners probably know a lot more while you guys walk into something than
they did 10 years ago.
Exactly, when we first started.
A lot more educated.
The public health awareness on mold is definitely there. With that being said, I think that there is kind of an emphasis on, okay, what can the mold portion help with the health portion? As much as we're not doctors, and we never claim to be doctors, obviously there is triggers for mold for people that are not feeling well in their home, right?
Of course.
So I think that taking the normal air swabs and tapes and kind of doing a thorough investigation, what you guys do in the field, I know you're very accurate, and you're very knowledgeable. Taking those samples and actually using that to help the client on the flip side of the health-related aspects is really where the industry is headed, I believe. People want to take action before they kind of feel like they're not feeling good, things like that. So I feel like that's really where we're headed.
Interesting.
Yes.
How do you feel about the ERMI test?
Ooh, good question. That's a hot topic.
Yeah, we get it out. We get asked for it all the time.
It really is. Okay.
Yeah.
So the ERMI test. So I guess it'll go back to what we were just talking about. I think the ERMI test is a great, maybe add-on addition to sampling.
So I wouldn't not do direct microscopy. You would also add on ERMI, you're saying?
Correct. I think there's bits and pieces of all of this, right? So if you take the air sampling and you take the direct swab and tape sampling, that's one component. Then you add on, okay, let's do ERMI too and see what that's coming back with. And then, if you want to do specific mycotoxin testing too, and kind of formulating a better idea of the house as a whole, but just using ERMI is not a very helpful indication of what's going on in your property. ERMI is just settled dust. You don't know how long that settled dust had been there.
Could have been there from a decade before.
Could have been 20 years. You
had a hurricane and flood from 12 years ago, and you didn't clean the carpets well enough, and you don't use a HEPA vacuum, and it's going to be there in the carpet. And we get calls like it all the time where someone's like, my ERMI test said I had Stachybotrys, black mold, and like, they're like, oh, well, I had a flood 8 years ago. I haven't had a flood since then. And it freaks out the homeowner for no reason before we go out there.
It's definitely like a red flag portion of the homeowner side. I think that they have done a really good job of marketing that tool.
An incredible job.
It's an easy tool for homeowners to use.
And on the flip side, I feel like ERMI or some of that has almost done, like, attacked direct microscopic analysis. The same homeowners that say ERMI is like the top, the apex, will also say, I don't believe in air samples or swab samples. You're like, okay, you don't believe in microscopes, basically, is what you're saying. You don't believe in directly observing spores on a glass slide, which I can understand where there's bad mold assessors, because there's a lot. Just because you look at a glass slide or an air sample under a microscope, you have to then take that data, take field observations, the moisture mapping of the home, inspection of the duct system, and try to piece together a whole story about the home. Is it stucco? Is it concrete block, CBC construction? Is there spray foam in the attic? All these things contribute to the greater building envelope and the story behind the home. How do you feel about mold canines? Have you seen that around on TikTok?
I have. I follow a bunch of them on TikTok because they intrigue me.
You know Zuko, the mold canine? Do you know
Zuko? Yes, I follow them.
Everyone seems to know Zuko, too.
I follow them on Instagram. Yes, you know what?
We're Zuko's favorite mold remediator, by the way. Yes, we are.
Zuko.
You want to meet Zuko?
Yes,
we might have to bring Zuko around.
But again, it leads back to all of these are great tools, right? Each part of this is a tool. Direct sampling, air sampling, a tool. ERMI, a tool. Mold dogs, a tool. So if you can do multiple factors of all of this, I think you're going to get a really good idea of what your house is trying to tell you, right? It does go back to having a reliable assessor, and who you choose to sample with is going to be everything. You at GreenFox are doing everything you can to give your client the most knowledge you can, and an accurate inspection is going to be kind of the first part of all of that. But using the tools and all of these testing approaches is going to be, what you need to do in the field to give them the best analysis of their home.
It's amazing that you and your physician can say that too, because she doesn't do mycotoxin testing. You don't do ERMI testing here. You can acknowledge that maybe these other pieces can add on to it.
Yes. I mean, overall at Sporelytics, we want the best for the industry, right? So if that means talking about all these different types of testing, and although we don't offer that service, it's helping the industry as a whole and shed light on things maybe we didn't know 10 years ago, or Josh started 20 years ago. This industry has grown a lot, and for the better, and for the client, the paying client is going to actually get more knowledge now than 20 years ago, which is phenomenal. I think we all have the underlying hope that we want to help people. No, we're not curing cancer, but there's a lot of portions to this mold side that does make people sick or not feel good, and having assessors go out and do the things that they should be doing is going to make everyone feel better and better the industry as a whole.
I agree. I agree completely. And speaking of using multiple tools, we just got done doing remediation. And we're doing it today, actually. United Mold Inspections went in, did an original mold inspection, took air samples, took surface samples. A guy went in and took mycotoxin air samples and surface samples of furniture. Zuko then went in. Zuko went in and corroborated what the homeowner, it was a hard find, but there was 2 windows that were leaking and another window that was leaking in the office. Zuko pointed right to them. I went out there last week and the windows were wet, just like the other inspector had noted, and then Zuko had noted too as well. So we did the remediation, and Zuko, the mold dog, is actually coming back to clear us.
Wow.
So we took surface samples too of the drywall from inside the wall cavity, and the wife has had blood mycotoxin tests. So she has gliotoxin in her blood, and what she wants to do, she wants to tie that, or her doctor wants to tie that to possibly what's in the wall, because the mold healing journey for this woman has been a lot about just closing that door too, as well, of re-exposure and wanting to know where it came from. So it's interesting because we now have mycotoxin testing. I think they did ERMI testing too, direct microscopic, observation analysis, and now Zuko, the canine.
Yeah,
And
another added
then,
piece.
yeah,
Cool.
and then going back to the blood testing. So
Yeah.
it kind of all, like you said, paints a
All
picture.
ties together.
It all ties together. Costs a lot of money, but it ties together.
Yes, I mean, I think that is another factor too that always plays a part in a lot of this is, well, a lot of it is going to be out of pocket, especially with the higher
Yeah.
ERMI, the
Especially with the ERMI and the mycotoxins.
The mold dogs are quite pricey.
The mold dogs
I
are
will
too.
say, the air samples, the direct samples are going to be the cheapest option.
100%. That's why we start with them, and that's why we use them, because we find we get enough information to do our part, to do the remediation. We're not doctors. We're not, we just do remediation, but we find that swabs or cavity samples or air samples provide enough empirical data for us to then.
It's a good first start to just evaluating the home as a whole. And then obviously, as you peel back the layers, you can do more of the specialized testing to get a even better picture of the home itself. But the direct samples and the air samples are going to be the first line of defense. And I don't see that changing in the industry.
I don't either.
It is the cheapest option, and it can give you really what you're looking for quickly.
Have you seen or heard of any of the qPCR stuff, like with, residual fungal growth, or like even air samples? What do you think of qPCR technology? Could you see in the future, because qPCR technology can pick up on the genetic material that if the fungi actually germinate. So if you have hyphal fragments, it can pick up on the genetic material there. Could you see qPCR for like swab samples? If you had a mini qPCR here and we're able to just analyze, swab samples, could you see that being something that would be viable? Or
so I think we always go back to the same question, right? It does give you more information.
Yeah.
More information is great, but at the end of the day, on the remediation side, what do you have to do? You have to remove whatever that suspect mold growth is.
Yeah.
So is spending all the extra money, because those testings are going to be way more money, really helpful at that point of things that are going to be removed from the home anyway? Maybe not.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Also, you do want to be the independent person here.
Oh, yeah.
And send it to the lab who's going to give you, unbiased opinion of what's in that sample. So you guys don't take the liability of saying, oh, well, it was there, but maybe it wasn't. Or there was a malfunction in the reading of the sample. So an independent third-party lab is always going to be what you want. And you don't want the lab to obviously tell you that's high, medium, or low. Once you have those kind of labs, that's not an independent lab. That's giving the lab is giving an opinion on that, and you shouldn't be working with a lab like that, in my personal opinion.
I agreed. Well, that's a great sequitur. So speaking of accreditation, because I'll get clients be like, well, I took this sample. I'm like, what lab did you send to? Oh, some lab in Arkansas, so-and-so. And you're like, what do they have SOPs?
Credentials.
Do they have credentials? Like, what's their protocol, to do? So what do you have to do to maintain your status? Or what status do you have?
Yeah, so we're accredited by A2LA. So that's a very big accreditation body that, a lot of labs use. So with that, we do have to follow strict guidelines, our SOPs that we put in place. They come in actually to the lab and watch us work and watch us analyze samples and prep samples. So that portion of making sure that you're accredited is very important. And also with the accreditation, you can't really give your interpretation, right? So if you're doing an accurate accreditation,
so you're just reporting the data. You're saying there's 10 spores there, and that's what it is.
Yep. It's up to the assessors to go ahead and make that determination if something needs to be removed, or that wall has microbial growth on it that needs to be taken out. There is a lot of factors that we don't see on the lab side, right? So you guys are actually in the field. You take the visual representation of what you're trying to tell in the samples themselves, and you have to put those two pieces together. So sometimes something can be elevated, but on your side, that's not really what
That's not what we
seeing.
see. Yeah. I mean, we also didn't find it though, too, as well.
Right. And then on the flip side of that, even if the sample doesn't come back as elevated, elevated as you may have thought, but on your visual inspection, something still needs to be fixed, replaced, remediated, whatever the situation may be. So it's really a good idea to use a lab that does not state their opinions on that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Brittany, post-COVID, did you see any change in the indoor air quality market, or, you know, the requests at the lab, the volume that you guys received?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think COVID kind of brought another line of the homeowners kind of being more aware of what they're breathing, what you're touching. So with that, on the mold side of it, there's a lot more knowledge-based and research of things homeowners are Googling and research that they're doing. So I think that indoor air quality as a whole has become a very hot topic because of COVID. With that, you are seeing people wanting to just test their home for their indoor air quality, even if they don't.
Preemptively, yeah, we get that all the time.
Even if they don't have a specific problem that, you know, there's mold growing on the wall, they just want to know what's in their air quality. And that's where, you know, you guys can definitely help out in that respect and give them, okay, everything looks good here. You know, you don't really have too much to be worried about. So I think COVID kind of brought that awareness of indoor air quality to light, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
A good thing overall for everyone.
We've seen the same thing too as well.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone over this a little bit, but in terms of Sporelytics, what are you looking to be with Sporelytics? You know, a local leader or something more that could scale and expand to another lab, or, you know, what's kind of the 10-year vision with Sporelytics?
Sure. Well, we never want to put ourselves in a bubble, so we might like to expand to other different types of analysis, who knows. But at the core of it, we'd like to have our Fort Lauderdale lab the hub of mold again, you know, where our assessors can come in and learn from each other and talk and network, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
You know, having people also are aware about our most accurate read on the market, I think is a really important factor here that a lot of people don't actually know. So we're excited to be here and kind of get back in the swing of things and help everyone in the mold world for sure. Yeah.
We're excited to have you back too as
you.
well, both you and Josh.
So also another really great thing that we offer here, I know that you guys are local, right? So you can come in and drop samples off all the time, but we do actually receive samples worldwide.
Okay.
People can ship these samples from all over and they will come directly to our Fort Lauderdale lab, and that's where we'll go ahead and do the analysis for them, which is a cool thing, a cool factor. We've worked with people in England and we've worked with people in Australia. We do provide the free shipping and it comes here and we can go ahead and do the analysis. Also with that, we can have a really core team of people with a lot of knowledge base in one building and we kind of work off of each other.
Yeah. In terms of if I was an assessor in Mississippi or Maryland, I could ship my samples here too as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also provide sample media, pumps,
correct,
everything, stuff like that?
Yes, we're the one-stop shop for mold. So all of your IAQ product needs, aerosols, allergencos, micro 5s. We give out the swabs and tapes for free. So the direct sampling supplies for free for the assessors. All the IAQ pumps that you would need, the Zephon pump, the Buck BioAir, the Z-Lite, anything you would need, we have in stock at all times.
Is there anything else you want to say about the industry as a whole? Just, you know, what do you enjoy about the mold industry? And what could you see on all sides getting better, more education surrounding? Yeah, what, you know.
I think that as an industry, the importance of learning, continuing education is what we'll say. What you think you know now is maybe not something that we even know in 2 months from now. And I think working together and exploring all of those different either techniques that everyone has as an industry, talking and building together, I think is an important factor for the industry as a whole. At Sporelytics, we will start doing continuing education for everyone that wants to kind of get more involved and better their understanding of mold itself, at least on a lab perspective side, right? I think that obviously mold is always going to be here. It's never going away.
Yeah.
So us working together, the lab and the assessors, and creating, you know, this close-knit community, I think it'll be beneficial for everyone involved, homeowners, assessors, the lab working together to tackle all your, mold needs.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's very antithetical to some of what I'm seeing and Brad's seeing, I think, in the private equity space. And like a lot of these companies are being rolled up. Do you know ECM? So Air Pros Co. LLC just went under. It's like $400 million bankruptcy. They're in debt almost $500 million. And it was a large, roll up, a bunch of different AC companies. And I think what happened was they went too corporate. And what I love about Sporelytics and walking in here is how completely different to that. Yes. People don't like the corporate vibe. In general, most people don't like, corporate structure.
That feeling,
yeah. You want to feel it. Yeah.
Yes.
You want it to feel like a family, like people, like they're friends walking in.
Correct.
So if you scaled and if you did go multi-state, how would you, as a woman business leader, as a human, try to keep that vibe? Try to keep small feel, but now larger operation. You have 10 labs. How do you keep the consistency while also keeping the familiar feeling?
Of course. I think that it is important to remember no matter how big or how small your company is, working with us is going to be exactly the same. I think that's how people over the years have felt. We are one big family, and I know that, everyone always says that, but I truly think we created a culture that feels like you can come in with all of your questions or needs, and we're going to obviously meet them. But more than that, I'm going to learn about you and your family and what we can do to help you as either a person, your business, whatever the situation may be. Now, for scaling purposes, I think we kind of always just keep that in mind. Anyone that you're training, we're all human at the end of the day, and no one is a number. You're Brett from GreenFox, and that's important to us.
I think that's a big one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then hiring people too, right? Hiring people that have that same kind of, look on life and not like robotic.
Correct.
And just more care about those things, right?
Yeah. We work together really well here. We've worked together for 12 years, 20 years, and you kind of create that family feel. And with that, on the, the lab side is no one feels like they can't ask a question, right? There's spores that come up that don't look textbook perfect, and what do we have to do? We all have to communicate. We all have to talk about it. We all lean on each other, and that's probably one of the most important factors in all of this.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
If you could change one thing about how mold is understood or regulated in the U.S., or I guess Florida, because it's not regulated.
Yeah.
And there's state statute in Florida, but even then there's not enforcement per se in the,
Correct.
way other things are enforced. Like, what would you like?
change?
What would you,
Ooh.
I don't, just in general, because you see a lot of trends on TikTok, right?
Yes.
You see TikTok, Instagram, you see the mold dogs. I'm sure you follow a lot of mold people, right?
I do, yeah.
Okay,
I'm out there looking at
so,
the videos.
So what do you, when you see that, what do you wish? You're like, gosh, I wish people weren't receiving that information, or the information be different. And a lot of it's fear-based. That's what I find. Like there's some that's like fear-based, trying to sell stuff rather than just educate.
Correct.
Like you need to sell. We live in a free market, but but go ahead.
The fear factor is never a cool tactic to take. Yes, could be mold in your house, but you could be getting mold exposure from other things. You could be ingesting, a large vegetarians eat a lot of vegetables and stuff like that. You don't clean that appropriately, you're ingesting mold. Nuts have a lot of mold. You're ingesting that.
They get multiple mycotoxins.
Exactly.
There's multiple,
Exactly. So
the
fear tactic that it has to be coming from your home, not necessarily. It could be coming from a diet, your environment. People might not have mold in their home, but they go to an office space that has mold that they never even thought about. So those certain things. Another weird little tidbit on our side is when we get a call. I saw visual mold, but I took an air sample. Why are you taking an air sample? Why didn't you take a direct sample? That's going to give you a more accurate analysis of what's going on in that substrate or that room. It's not always airborne. Could just stay on the surface.
A lot of times it isn't airborne, or it can be airborne at certain times, but not others, right?
Correct.
The AC runs longer, certain periods, shorter, drafts when you open up the door. There's so many factors. We've also taken samples, now we're part and it's airborne 1 hour and not airborne the next, just because you have building traffic and so many different things. Sometimes
There's a lot of different factors that
Yeah.
come up. We have assessors that are hired to take samples at the same time, and you wouldn't believe how different the air samples can be. There's various factors that go into that. So I always say, if you see visible mold, you do need to take a direct sample of it, because it's not always going to be airborne, and you're not going to pick it up in some of the aerosol cassettes.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany, the last question
Okay.
for young people coming into the field
Okay.
that don't know anything about mold
Okay.
and maybe have or have not seen Zuko on Instagram. What advice could you give them if they wanted a career in if they didn't want to go the route going to medical school, or they didn't want to go be a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company, and there's the wonderful field of EM, what advice could you give them?
I would
Now that
say-
you're running a business, I mean,
and I was there, right? I had just walked into a lab one day and realized I absolutely love this. This will be my home and my career for the next 60 years of my life. I would
Hopefully you're retired by then and a multi-millionaire at that point. But
like I said, I'm gonna sit on my computer and my microscope forever. I would say that give it a shot. You really never know where you're gonna land, and if an opportunity really does work out for you, you can kind of pave your way in the indoor air quality space as a whole. Let's say that the lab side doesn't work for you. Maybe you do want to try assessing. That portion of it is really neat as well. So there's a very promising career on all sides of this, and I think that's kind of very exciting for the mold world and for these young guys or girls that are coming and doing this. I love that there's so many mold assessing women and young women too. I've really been diving deep into that, especially looking at the videos online and stuff. And I am just ecstatic with what I'm seeing out there. And these young girls like doing it, and that's awesome.
It's amazing.
All for it.
And women we deal with it daily, where the husband will be like, I don't smell something. And the wife's like, I smell something.
Yeah.
And women, I don't know what it is, but
We have a good nose.
There it is. Right?
We're very in tune to that.
So very in tune to that, just biologically, how the system is wired. So I think women could be a lot better inspectors than men a lot of times.
Attention to detail.
It's attention to detail.
Those little
like,
things that really do add up.
Because part of the inspections, like the first interview, they're giving you in 5 minutes a quick rundown that starts to allow you to piece together and understand why did you find hyphal fragments in that one area, or what, So I think I hope to see a lot more women in this space.
I love it.
Well.
I love it. Women in science, women out in the field. I'm all for it, and will help in any way possible.
Where can the young women and men and all the people who want to work with you find you?
Yeah. You can find us on social media at Sporelytics. You can give us a call.
And your website's being built right now, right?
Yeah, it's all included in our LIMS online store. So right now we are actively working on that. So that'll be in our next unveiling, I guess we can say.
Okay, so maybe by the time this video is posted, then the website will be up.
Absolutely.
We'll include all.
Or come see us in Fort Lauderdale. We'll be happy to chat and get to know you and learn more about your business and how we can help you as a lab.
Well, Brittany, it was great speaking with you today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for talking with us.
You got it. Thank you.